You will not believe this, but Rell Seas is back with massive game news. Two 30-minute interviews with Rell players themselves and a ton of new sneak peeks, both revealing a ton about progression, which we didn't know previously much about, and how immersive the Rell Seas world is actually gonna be, because some of this stuff is actually really surprising. So right before I hop right into the video, leave a like and subscribe in order to help me beat Mr. Beast in subscribers, eh? Alright, first before I talk about something more important like progression, I'll go over all the new Rell Seas sneak peeks we got from this interview, and there are a lot of them. First, there's this Gecko Moria sneak peek. I think this is the boss. And then there's this house. I don't even know what this is supposed to be. Wait, I understand it now. It's not a house. It's the back of the ship. And this is the front of the ship. And then there's these marine cloaks. Look at that immaculate shadows. Yeah, that's a little place. And then there's the Dolphlamingo. Is this crocodiles? Luffy's mom. And then there's this boss you're gonna be fighting in this cave right here. This is the old version of the dragon. And then this is the new one. It has a lot more shadows, and it's kinda a little more detailed, and you can see it lost a little weight, and these ones are actually really good. Yeah, this one too. This reminds me of that one avatar I bought for 800 Robux. This is a Gecko Moria cutscene, and all the animations are really good, especially the VFX. Like, look at those effects. Nah, that is crazy. No glaze, but on Roblox, I've never seen cutscene animation this good as in this game. That was actually fire animation, if I'm being real. If I'm guessing what a cutscene is for, I think that's the cutscene for when you start fighting the boss. Like when you aggro it, probably something like that if I'm being real. Next, there's this huge monument. And as you can see, the character is mad small compared to this whole place. It's like a castle. I don't know if I like the interior of this place as much as the exterior, because there's like not many things here, but it's probably still being worked on. Overall, very impressive animation and cutscenes, and especially the monument, the castle we just saw. It's really detailed. Actually, that's not the last thing. There's also this, which is supposed to represent underwater exploration. And there's this big sea beast right here, this blue thing. And if you don't know, in movie 1 and 2, we learned that underwater exploration is gonna be a major part of the game. So I think this is a W thing, just getting jump scared by this massive sea beast as you're just driving this submarine with your crew. Now, a lot of important things about Rell Seas were revealed, including progression itself. Firstly, a lot of y'all Rell Seas fanatics are probably wondering about the update schedule for Rell Seas when it comes out, because it is important for real, since so many good and bad Roblox games just fail because they're not getting enough updates the way players want them on time. Runeslayer is an example. I got to max level on 2 character slots in 5 days of release, and so are probably the 30k players who are now not playing the game. Because in my opinion, it's a good game, but the real content updates ain't consistent as they should be, which reflects on its player count. Rell Seas, on the other hand, will apparently have weekly updates, which you might think is a lot, considering that every update has to have a reasonable amount of content. But they already did it once for a few months on Life, and it was a lot of good new content in my opinion. But they'll only do weekly updates for a few months of release, and then they'll do massive updates on a consistent schedule every few months or so, I think. Which is sometimes, in my opinion, better, because a lot of content at once for a game is honestly better than bits by bits every week. And I'm not saying the weekly updates won't be significant, they probably will be, but in my opinion, it's better when there's a big update every once in a while with a lot of content than if it's only weekly, like one new ability every week. That's weak in my opinion. Also, the reason why the updates won't lag, like some of y'all may think because it's weekly, is because they're gonna have a head start on updates. And that's because when Rell Seas releases, they reduce the content on release and then add stuff in updates and make new updates with all the content that wasn't released. The scale is more like reducing the $30 fruits that they have in the game to 25 on release. And how do I know that? It's because in that one interview, they said they'll reduce the content overall, which does not mean only dollar fruits. It's everything, like progression, for example, underwater exploration. But is $25 fruits on release enough? It probably is, considering that every dollar fruit is probably going to be higher quality than the dollar fruits you know from Blox fruits. Because yes, I'm a Blox fruits hater. I'm the D1 hater, as a matter of fact. When it comes to dollar fruits, one thing I hope doesn't happen to Rell Seas that happened to their previous game, Life, is that they add non-canon dollar fruits. Because if you don't know about Life, that was a Naruto-inspired game almost to the core until they started adding Batman to the game. Like, are they gonna add the Hulk next or Super Saiyan? I actually hope that doesn't happen to Rell Seas because it should stay relevant to the anime in my opinion. As I was editing the video, Rell Seas released a ton of new sneak peeks and a lot of things that might be hinting at the release of movie 3 and possibly the release there of the whole game. The reason why I think that is because Rell Bad said that 444 is one of his friend's lucky number, and what I think that means is April 4th, because realistically, it's April 4th month of the year, and in 2 days, it's gonna be April 4th at 4 p.m. But you might be asking, are they releasing the whole game in 2 days? Hell no. But what they are releasing in 2 days is Rell Seas Movie 3 possibly, because they also sent this, which is a file for the script for Rell Seas Movie 3. It's all hinting at the release of Movie 3, and why that is important is because first of all, they're gonna talk a lot about the game itself, release a lot of sneak peeks, combat, progression, all of that. But also they said they'll tell us the release of the game if the game is ready for that. And since they're hyping up the Movie 3 this much, I think the game is ready for that. So there's a high likeliness, in my opinion, that they'll tell us the release day of the game in Movie 3. But also another outcome could be that they'll tell us in 2 days the release day of the Movie 3 itself, which is honestly a little more likely and realistic, considering that Rell Games always tells us about a Rell Seas movie beforehand, about 2 weeks or so if I'm being real. So honestly, they could just be telling us the release day of Movie 3, in which they might tell us the release day of the whole game. But yeah, on April 4th, they're probably gonna say something about Rell Seas, whether it's the release of the movie or releasing the movie itself. More likely, I think it's gonna be releasing the release day of the movie. What the fuck did I just say? And that, if I'm guessing, could probably be 2 weeks in my opinion, or something like that.
One eternity later.
Okay, actually forget that. Unless this is a coded message in and of itself. Because think about it, it's April. April means April Fools. So if they said nothing's coming on April 4th, that means that there is something related to Rell Seas coming out on April 4th. That's just a game theory. I better release this video before nothing gets released for Rell Seas on April 4th. Anyways, here are all the new sneak peeks. There's this bird, which I think is from the anime from Alabasta, that one fella. And then there's this tiger, I think it's a mount, and it has a W design. And then there's this rabbit, I don't know what that is, and a penguin. There's also this weapon, it's a dagger probably, and I'm not gonna glaze it. Most importantly, they also said that the game was optimized by like 10 times, which is good because I know there's gonna be a lot of y'all on mobile playing this game, and if it wasn't optimized, it would be lagging a lot, especially if the map is massive. And I'm not gonna drop a ninja edit here. Onto possibly the reason why Rell Seas is gonna be a very immersive game. Progression. Even though we don't know much about progression, there's still a lot of clues. And I do not think the progression is gonna disappoint. Alright, so what do we already know about progression? First, it's not gonna be like any other Roblox game you already know. It's not gonna be linear, which basically means come to this quest board and beat this bandit 100 times over. That is not gonna be Rell Seas, trust me. Recently, Relbet said one of the game's main progression is gonna be boss fights. They've taken a heavy approach to make each boss fight unique with challenging attack patterns. Study and play mechanics outside of Roblox. What that means is that they get inspired by games like Elden Ring to make the bosses complicated and hard to fight, because in Elden Ring they have complicated attack patterns and it requires you a lot more brain power and faster reflexes, which a lot of the players who play Roblox do not prefer in a game, if we are being real. Hence why Bloxburg has so many players. But of course, boss fights is not gonna be the only way to progress. There's a lot of things in the map. There's a lot of islands, a lot of seas, and there's towns, and in those towns there's NPCs. And they said that the towns are gonna be immersive because all the NPCs are gonna be living, basically walking around and talking to each other through chat or voiceover, probably both. Then you might overhear that one of them wants logs, and then you can go bring it for them, but then you might encounter 2 giants fighting, or pirates or marines, and then whoever you help decides the story. I assume that's gonna be something like Deepwoken, where who you fight assumes who's your ally and who's not. Probably something similar to that, but not the same for sure. I do not know how exactly that is gonna work out and how it works, but I know they mentioned something like that in the interview. The last thing I'm gonna show you in this video is this, which shows the evolution of Rell Seas throughout time. Because as y'all probably know, Rell Seas went through a lot of reworks for a lot of reasons, one of them being copyright. This is the earliest picture of Rell Seas. This is Rell Seas 1. This is Rell Seas 2, this is 2.5, I think this is around the time of movie 1, and Rell Seas 3, around the time of movie 2. And then Rell Seas 4 picture is gonna be coming soon, possibly around the same time as Rell Seas movie 3. That's everything new regarding Rell Seas, and subscribe and leave a like.